Now for our What in the World segment. There's one issue on which Barack Obama and Mitt Romney are in agreement: outsourcing.
We do not need an outsourcing pioneer in the Oval Office. We need a president who will fight for American jobs.
If there's an outsourcer in chief, it's the president of the United States, not the guy who's running to replace him.
Every week, politicians on both sides of the aisle bash outsourcing. Each accuses the other of shipping jobs to China. But hang on, what is so bad about outsourcing? Let's look at the facts. A common misconception about outsourcing is that it is a zero-sum game. By that I mean when an American job is moved to China, we tend to read the score as China +1 and America -1. But a recent study from the London School of Economics Center for Economic Performance reviewed 58 American industries between 2000 and 2007. It found that instead of limiting jobs for Americans, immigration and offshoring actually improved the domestic job market. You can understand why. If a company can lower its costs by outsourcing, it is likely to survive and flourish and thus eventually hire more workers in America. Outsourcing is actually a fancy word for a simple, ancient idea. People should specialize at what they do best. Adam Smith described it as far back as 1776. He wrote in The Wealth of Nations, "If a foreign country can supply us with a commodity cheaper than we ourselves can make it, better buy it of them." The concept dates even further back, perhaps right back to the first rudimentary marketplace. Buyers always look for the best deal on the market. The difference today is the market is a highly global, competitive space, so for a company to survive, it needs to seek out the best place to make its goods. And hundreds of millions of consumers benefit. They get cheap goods and services. Everything from iPhones to airline tickets would be a lot more expensive if not for outsourcing. U.S. companies don't simply ship jobs out to China or India because labor is cheaper there. They do so also to gain a foothold in growing emerging markets. And as new economies rise, they buy more American products and services, and they invest their capital in the United States. When the North American Free Trade Agreement was being implemented in 1994, many feared the deal would result in hundreds of thousands, millions of lost American jobs. People thought cheaper Mexican labor and goods would replace American-made products. But all those years later, most economic studies show that NAFTA's net effect on jobs was negligible. Instead, NAFTA helped both the Mexican and American economies to expand. Now, outsourcing and trade can be misused. If corporations ship production offshore to avoid taxes or do it in a short-sighted way, companies need to recognize that American workers, high-wage workers, can produce quality goods efficiently, as they do in Germany, for example. But the reality is that as a concept, outsourcing is not only useful, it is inevitable. It's never easy to see a job move from one country to another. But jobs are lost by automation too. Does that make progress bad?
The date, as per your
The answer isn't to criticize outsourcing. Instead, we need to find ways to build on its advantages. By being negative about a pretty standard and age-old global practice, both political parties are masking a lack of real ideas. What we need is a smart debate about how to create jobs.